Hi, I'm Barry Kahn. I would like to talk for a few minutes about language learning anxiety. I'm trying to learn English and it's terrible. Not me personally, I already speak English. People get very worried about their language learning. They get anxious. Not all of them, of course, but many people get anxious. They say, I'm shy. I'm afraid to talk. I understand a lot, but I can't talk or I make too many mistakes. People worry a lot about how they're doing when they learn another language. I think the first and possibly most common fear is people won't understand you. People are afraid if they speak, the listener will not understand. And that is entirely possible. It's not a fantasy, especially when you're a beginner. People may not understand you. Usually, I would say 90% of the time, if people don't understand you, it's because you're not pronouncing the sounds of the language correctly. And I feel like I talk about listening and listening and listening a lot. I do talk about it a lot. I'm always talking about it because it's important. And if you're a beginner, listening is the main thing you should be doing more than anything else. I've talked about that, so I won't beat it to death again in this video, but you need to listen. And then when you start learning to speak, you need to get somebody to help you with pronunciation. If you have a teacher, either a native speaker or somebody who pronounces English well, make them correct you. It's important. Think about it this way. If you're learning a new language and you don't know any of the sounds, you can try to learn it without thinking much about pronunciation, and then probably you will learn at least some of the sounds incorrectly. If you're learning English and nobody corrects your TH pronunciation, then you might say this instead of this. This is my house. This is my house. So you're substituting one sound for another. If you copy a sound, but you copy it incorrectly, or you replace it with a sound in your own language, that makes it harder for people to understand you. If you practice words with incorrect pronunciation, at some point, especially if people are having trouble understanding you, at some point you're going to need to fix the problem. And if you've practiced it incorrectly, then you have to unlearn it and relearn it. So you have to fix the problem. If you learn the sounds of a new language correctly from the beginning, it saves time. It may feel like you're spending more time, but you're not. Because if you learn to make the sounds correctly from the beginning, people will understand you and it never becomes a big problem. So if you're feeling shy about speaking because you're afraid people won't understand you, they'll tell you. People will tell you. They'll say, I'm sorry, can you say that again? Please repeat that. They're going to tell you if they don't understand. And when they tell you that, that's your cue, that's your sign that you need to work on pronunciation. Doesn't have to be perfect, it has to be good enough. So that's number one. Fear of learning a language or fear of speaking because you're afraid people won't understand you. And maybe they don't. Then you got to fix it. All right, another fear is that people will make fun of you. If I speak English, people will laugh at me. They're going to make fun of me. I don't want people to make fun of me. People should not be making fun of you. And people who routinely make fun of other people learning their language have terrible manners, and they are not the kind of people you should spend time with. It's that simple. Anybody who has tried to learn a second language should be very tolerant, very understanding, very forgiving of what you're going through. In my personal experience, I have always found that people appreciate or appreciated my efforts to speak their language. When I lived in Senegal and I spoke to people in Wolof, they were delighted. They knew they weren't going to hold complicated discussions with me, but they were delighted that I took the time, made the effort to learn their language. I'm thinking of the languages that I have spoken well enough to have conversations, Spanish and French primarily, and German. And I've always found people to be appreciative. So if somebody makes fun of you, they're not the kind of person you want to spend time with. They're simply not. And if it's a teacher, I have had students tell me stories of teachers who made fun of them or who made fun of other students. Those people should not be teaching. They simply shouldn't. They don't belong in the profession. You don't get people to learn anything by making fun of them. They might learn to hate you. They might learn to hate the language. They're not going to be happy about it. So don't spend time with people who make fun of you. Just don't do it. Find some other place to spend your time. Fear of making mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. People will think I'm stupid. People will think I'm not intelligent if I make mistakes, pronunciation mistakes, grammar mistakes, vocabulary mistakes. Again, this is mostly a fear that people create in their own minds. It's not that people think you're not intelligent, it's that you imagine that's what they're thinking. And so you become shy and you become hesitant and you're nervous. Most people, again, they know that you're trying to speak their language, and many of them realize that it's not so easy. And so they appreciate your effort. They don't think you're unintelligent because you're not a proficient speaker yet. And again, anybody who has ever learned a second language knows it takes a long time and it takes a lot of practice. So many of the fears that people have about speaking a second language are fears that they make up. They imagine how people are thinking. And in fact, people are happy that you're trying to speak their language. So don't make it harder on yourself by being afraid. When you're a beginner, clearly you're not going to have complicated conversations. If all you can say is, "Hello, I'm glad to meet you. What's your name? My name is Barry. Where are you from? I'm from Germany. I'm from Los Angeles." And then you're done because you've had 2 days of instruction or 1 week, and that's all you can say, then that's all you can say. You say, "I'm done. That's all I know." And people will say, "You're off to a good start. Keep it up. Keep going." So many, I would say most of the fears that people have about speaking are in their imagination. Clearly, if you join a group of people, for example, if you're from a different country and you get a job in the United States and everybody is a native speaker except you, and you're really a beginner, then you don't talk. You listen. That's all. You use the things that you know, Good morning, good morning. Hi, how are you? I'm doing okay. How are you? And when you run out of conversation, you stop talking and you just listen. If you have to have a conversation, you do your best and don't worry about it. Let me turn this around now and talk about your attitude when you're learning a new language. For myself, I think of languages as being like games or puzzles. They're complicated games, they have a lot of parts, but most of the time when you're learning a game, you don't take it too seriously. You think, well, if I don't understand all the rules today, maybe we'll play the game tomorrow or next week, and I'll get better at the game over time. The more I play, the easier it will be, the better I will understand the rules of the game. And after a while, I'll play it just like everybody else plays it. That's just like learning a language, except that a language is a complicated game and it has some challenging parts, especially pronunciation and possibly grammar and possibly the writing system. In other words, the whole thing can be pretty complicated, especially if it's a language that's very different from yours, which is like, I'm learning a game, but I've never played a game like this before in my life. So you're going to have to treat me as a total beginner. Let's take it slow and easy. Don't go too fast. And in time, I'll learn to play. Or you can think of it as a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle. Jigsaw puzzles are the ones with lots of little pieces, and you fit them together. When you're all done, you have a picture, photograph, a painting. Some puzzles have 24 pieces. Puzzles for little children might have 9 pieces sometimes. Very, very simple. Some of them have even fewer pieces than that. I'm thinking of my grandchildren's toys. And then there are puzzles with 500 pieces, 1,000 pieces. Some of them take days for 2 or 3 or 4 people to put together. It's a lot of trial and error. Trial and error means you try it, it doesn't work, you try a different piece, it doesn't fit. You try a different piece, it doesn't fit. And you keep trying and trying. Here it is. I got it. I got the piece that finishes off the cloud or the boat or the car. And then you start on the next piece. Languages are like huge puzzles, except you never finish. There's always more vocabulary. But if you take that, I'm playing a game or I'm doing a puzzle, if you take that attitude, then a lot of anxiety should go away. Number one, you know it's going to take time to learn the rules of the game. Who cares? Who cares if you learn all the rules in 3 months or 6 months? It might take you years to learn all the rules. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters if you have to take an exam. That's a different kind of anxiety. But for most people, most of the time, it doesn't matter. You get better as you get better. The more time you have to work on the puzzle, or the more time you have to play the language game, the faster you'll learn. There's definitely a relationship between time spent, time invested, and the results that you get. 10 minutes a day compared to 3 hours a day is a huge difference. And the person exposing themselves to the language will make faster progress if they spend more time. Mistakes, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. And that's not just true of language, that's true of learning. If everything was automatically perfect, if a 20-year-old person who has never played tennis can pick up a tennis racket and play like Roger Federer after 10 minutes, then they're not human. They're some kind of robot or something. learning anything takes time and practice. And in the process of learning how to do it, you make mistakes. If anything, mistakes help you learn because we tend to pay more attention to our mistakes, whether we notice them and correct them ourselves or somebody else. A teacher says, no, don't do it that way. If you do it that way, you might cut off your finger. Do it this way. Make sure your hands are here. Oh, some games, like learning to use a table saw, you have to learn it right or you will lose fingers or worse. So that's not really a game when you're using power tools. That's pretty serious. You can have a positive attitude, but you also need to pay attention. But in general, with languages, most of what you do in the beginning is mistakes. You don't pronounce correctly in the beginning. You don't know the grammar. If you have a great memory, you might remember quickly what people tell you. But for the average person, mistakes are normal. And so there's no value at all to even thinking about it. I did a tandem party once where I said, is the word mistake a mistake? It was kind of a joke title. But that's what I said. Is the word mistake a mistake when it comes to language learning? If we all make mistakes learning another language, is it even worth calling them mistakes? Because mistakes, oh, I made a mistake, that has a negative connotation. When, we try not to make mistakes. When you're in school, oh, I made 3 mistakes on the exam. But what if doing things incorrectly is how you learn it? What if that's how you learn? Should we call them mistakes? I'm not going to try to answer that question in this video, but think about it. It's not a very useful word if most of what you do is making mistakes in the beginning. What good does it do to say, oh, today I made 796 mistakes practicing French? Who cares? Nobody cares. Who is counting all those mistakes? You? I hope not. Me? Forget it. I've got other things to do. So I don't like the word mistakes very much when it comes to language learning. It's part of the process. It's what you do as you try to get closer and closer to correct pronunciation, correct grammar, correct usage of vocabulary. You're aiming, you have a goal. You're not going to do it perfectly on the first try or even the 10,000th try, but you get better with practicing. The last thing I would say is pay attention to yourself and think about what your preconceived notions are. Preconceived notions are like stereotypes. So if somebody says, oh, Chinese is a very difficult language. And I have already done a video. I've already done a video about what makes it easy or hard to learn a language. But your attitude, if you think of it as a game rather than, oh, Japanese, everybody says Japanese is so hard to learn for an American. Arabic, everybody says Arabic is an extremely difficult language. Well, you can say that if you want, but again, what good does it do you? For me, let me put it this way, depending on your attitude, you might say, if you're a person who's learning languages because you love to learn languages, and there are people like that, it's pretty much describes me. I didn't need to learn French, except for my linguistics major. I sort of needed to learn Spanish, but I volunteered to do it. And German I learned in high school, so it was just a class that I was taking, and then I happened to like it. Sometimes people need to learn English or another language. That's a different situation. But most of the time, and especially if you're learning a language for fun or because you want to travel, maybe you'd like to go to Japan, and so you'd like to speak some Japanese. What good does it do you to tell yourself that it's a hard language? The Japanese don't think it's a hard language. I don't think they do anyway. But it doesn't help. It doesn't change anything. So you can say, oh, if you're an American, then English, sorry, if you're an American, then Japanese or Chinese or Arabic are hard languages. And I would just say there are languages which take longer to learn. They longer to become proficient, reasonably proficient, or even, no, let me say fluent. There are languages which take longer to become fluent in. For an American, Finnish, Hungarian, Arabic, the Asian languages in general. But so what? That's like saying this puzzle has 1,000 pieces and this puzzle has 2,000 pieces. Yeah, it's probably going to take you longer to do the puzzle with 2,000 pieces. But if you like doing puzzles, who cares? Is it a race? For most people, no. It's just a process. It's a journey, and you will enjoy the journey more if you enjoy the journey. If you don't have, oh, this is going to be so hard for me to learn. I'm not sure I even want to do it. If you have a negative attitude, it will take you longer. I guarantee it. I promise you it will take longer if you're already making it difficult for yourself. We can set ourselves up for failure. People absolutely can and do set themselves up for failure. And it's an excuse. You're making excuses so that when you quit, everybody will say, well, you said it was very difficult. Oh, yeah, it was so difficult. Maybe you didn't really want to learn it in the first place. My last thing, I think my last thing was my last thing, but I have one more last thing, and that is simply children. Babies and children are the best role models for learning language. They absolutely are. They listen, they watch, they learn vocabulary invisibly. You don't know they're learning it when they're 8, 9, 10 months old because they don't speak yet, but they're learning cat and dog and mommy and lamp and door and window and so many words. And then all of a sudden you discover, oh, the baby's starting to talk. Well, the baby has been studying for a year or longer, listening and watching and figuring out what these words relate to. Remember, they're babies. They're starting off at day one. And they don't worry about anything. Babies and children do not worry about grammar. They do not worry about pronunciation. They don't worry about vocabulary. The only thing that they particularly care about, I think, is communication. That's what they want to do. They want to communicate. They want to be able to say, milk, hungry, ice cream, mommy, daddy, dog. They want to be able to talk so they can communicate. And if their pronunciation isn't perfect yet, who cares? Nobody cares. And another final thing, the environment in which babies learn is extremely supportive. When a baby starts talking, everybody says, yay, you said mommy, you said daddy, you are the best baby in the whole world. That's the way people should treat other people trying to learn a language. Be supportive. Encourage them. Don't say, oh, you made a mistake with the past tense. Your pronunciation is terrible. No, don't say things like that. Be supportive. Because when you're learning a new language, even though you're living in a 20 or 30 or 40 or 50-year-old body, when you start learning a new language, you're a baby. You are starting out just like a baby with a lot more knowledge, but in terms of that new language, you're a baby. So enjoy it. Enjoy it. That's it. Thank you very much. Go learn a new language.